About a year or so ago, I did a video on the Allied AX-190. That was the amateur radio version of these two radios here. This is the SX-190, the shortwave version. These came out in the early 1970s. And at the time I did those videos, I had mentioned I always wanted to get an SX-190. Well, at a recent hamfest, I noticed a guy had a couple of these, and I inquired about them, and he said they needed some work. He wasn't sure how well they worked. He said they needed an alignment, which I don't know. We'll see if that's true or not. Sometimes they just need fixing. They don't need an alignment. I haven't powered these on yet. But anyway, they're worth fixing. I always like these receivers. They seem pretty solid. It's a dual conversion, pretty much the same as the AX-190. They use some different crystals and cover some different frequencies. But anyway, I'm going to connect these up and do an initial test on them, and then we'll open them up and see what we find. I'll pick one of them at random and do that one first. So stand by and we'll investigate the Allied SX-190. The first unit on the left here, I'm going to run a simple test to see if we've got any input. Now, I can hear a signal that I've generated, 10 megahertz signal on a monitor here. I'm running in 1 microvolt. This unit does not have, it's got the bulbs burn out so you can't see, but we're not measuring anything on the S meter here. You can hear the signal in the speaker, but at 1 microvolt there's no indication on the S meter. I'm going to run up the output on the monitor here. There's a little over 3 microvolts, and we're getting about 2 S units. And there's 10 microvolts, about S5. And I've peaked the... Well, these pre-selectors are sharp. Pretty sharp tuning. Yeah, there's about 6 S units, and that's at just over 10 microvolts. So the unit is working. Let's try another frequency here. Let's try 14.5. Okay, at 14.5, running in 10 microvolts, nothing on the S meter. So I'm going to run it up a little more. There's 32 microvolts, still nothing. There's 100, still nothing. There's a little over 300. A little over 300 microvolts, we're getting about 4 S units. And I'll peak the prescaler here. So, not very sensitive on 14 megahertz, 14.5. 326 microvolts. So, I guess he wasn't kidding, it needs an alignment. Let's try... This would be about 18 megahertz. Okay, 18 megahertz. about 6, and 100 microvolts we're at about a little over 3 S units. So the sensitivity is dropping off here as we go up in frequency. Anyway, this radio is working. I think within an alignment this will be an operating unit. Let's check the second unit and see if we get similar results here. Maybe we just need 2 alignment jobs on these things. So stand by. Here's unit number 2, powered on. And right away I can hear we've got some bad AC hum. So obviously this is going to need some work in the power supply. We do have lights here. The incandescents are working in this one. I am going to replace these with LEDs along with this one here. So I'm going to connect the generator up to this one, and we'll start with well, the same thing, 18.5 on this one. Here's 100 microvolts. Should be able to pick something up here if it's working. Oh, there we go. $100 microvolts, about 2 S units. When I peak the pre-selector here. These pre-selectors are nice and narrow, but you really have to ride the thing as you tune. I'm going to drop it down to, there's about 30 microvolts, and we're down. You can hear it, but it's down, not really registering, I think. Yeah. So the units are working. I think they just need they both need an alignment. This one needs power supply work, and then redo the replace the incandescents with LEDs. And I think we'll have 2 working units here. This is the first unit I'm going to work on. This is the one on the left that has the burned out incandescent bulbs, which I'll replace. But before I do that, there's something else I'm going to do. For some reason, guy had his social security number on the top here. He used some type of engraver to put his social security number. Obviously that was done before the days of the internet, so I'll get rid of that. I covered it up. If the guy's still alive, I don't think he wants his social security number. Anyway, looking inside, I've got some good signs. That is, the wax is in all of the transformers here. Good. Nobody's been in there, hopefully. These are the ones with the ferrites that they break easy. It's fairly clean. A little dirt I'll clean up, but it doesn't look too bad. I've already pulled out some of these bulbs, and of course they're all bad. They're old. Let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. I'll do the same thing I did with the unit, that SX-190 that I did in a previous video. I'll do the same thing. I can mount a little board on here. Then I'll go through the alignment. Other things can cause low sensitivity. You know, you can have a AGC problem or maybe a weak RF amp. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. I can deduce that as I go through this thing. When I try to do an alignment, I'll know right away if that's a problem, and I can correct that. These are nice to work on, actually. They're not too bad. You get access with the top panel off. You got access to all the boards here, and then on these main boards here, other than this one and this one, if you take the bottom panel off, you got access to the bottom of these boards, which is really comes in handy. So I'll do that and then check the alignment, and then we'll test it again to see if we get any improvement. This was the unit on the left that didn't have the lights. The bulbs were burnt out, so I replaced them with LEDs. So at least you can see what's going on. And then I did the same thing I did in that other unit. I made up a little board here. All it is some series LEDs, rectifier diode, a cap, and then a series resistor to limit the current. And then I just fit them in the holes. They actually fit the grommets here. So anyway, now this one has illuminated dials. So now I'm going to check the alignment on this one, and then I'll go to the next one. This is the unit that was on the left, the one I put the new LEDs in, and I noticed the crystal calibrator is not working. I should be getting every 100 kilohertz. I get nothing. And I've peaked the pre-selector. Get nothing. Now when I go to 25 kc, I hear some kind of noise. I'm scoping the output, and there's nothing there. Now it's getting voltage here. There's with them out. Okay, I'm going to put the calibrator in, and it's getting 9.8 volts. The 100 kc, go back to 0. Now I'll hit the 25 kc, and it's going to 9. And I'm measuring right here. Here's the crystal, 100 kc crystal. That oscillates, and that's fed through, coupled out through C80. And it looks like here's a multivibrator here made from these two transistors. It looks like that's feeding that point, and this is synchronized to the 100 kc crystal here. So this must be dividing it in some way to get the 25 kilohertz, and then of course that's amplified and put output up through here. So I'm going to work my way back and see if I can find out where that's not working. It is getting voltage. It's getting the 9 volts up here. It's being switched, so I have to move forward into that, see what's going on. I have the scope on the base of Q20 here, so I should be able to see that 100 kc signal generated by the crystal. And when I hit 100 kc, there's a shift on the scope, but there's no signal. Now I'm going to hit the 25 kc calibrator signal, and I'm getting some type of a waveform. So evidently this looks like it's set up as a multivibrator here. It's being driven by the 100 kc calibrator, but for some reason this is not oscillating. So the problem appears to be here. This base should be driven by a signal from here. So I guess we'll have to figure out why. Once again, here's 100 kc calibrator and the 25. So there's a clue. I measured R90 in circuit, and it measured 77K. So if anything, that should read lower than 68. So that looks like that's changed in value. Whether it's changed enough to affect the oscillation of this, I don't know. I'm going to change R68 and replace it with a 68K resistor. Hopefully it'll start oscillating. I hope it's not the crystal. I do have some of these crystals, but I hate to use them because they're getting hard to find. Although I know I can scrounge some out of some old equipment if I have to do it. I replaced this 68K resistor, which is R90, It was bad. Resistance had gone way, way up. And now we've got our calibrator. There's 100K. And there's a 25 kc. 25 kc. And so anyway, that was just high enough resistance where it wouldn't oscillate. Glad it wasn't the crystal. Time to move on. Something else I noticed on this radio here. I'm running in about 11.7 megahertz on AM. Okay, I'm going to go to sideband. I got lower sideband, but no upper sideband. Upper sideband's dead. So before I go much farther here, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bottom off of the unit and I'm going to clean this switch. I'll do that first. And then if that doesn't cure the problem, that's the most likely problem. These switches are probably never been cleaned. And like I say, I can pick it up on lower sideband and on AM, so that's next. I clean the mode switch here. You can hear the output of the generator on AM. Let's see if we get it on USB. Were we lucky? No. Nope. Upper side balance still dead. Alright. Okay, well, sometimes you get lucky. Gee, I noticed this guy that had this before, he even engraved his social security number on the bottom. So I'm going to grind that out of there. Man, I tell you what, this is a good way to get your identity stolen. Of course, maybe he doesn't care anymore. Q16 acts as the BFO or the CW oscillator to insert the carrier for sideband. Now, X12 here, this crystal, 453.5 kilohertz, this should be switched in for upper sideband, and X13, 456.5 should be switched in for lower sideband. Since we lost our lower sideband, I'm going to find out why this isn't oscillating at 453.5. So I'm going to, what I think I'll do is try to pick off that signal. I don't want to load down the oscillator. I may go on the other side here, possibly picking off on one of the diodes here if I can. Might be an easy spot to do it. That way I'll isolate the probe from the oscillator here, and then I'll switch between these two crystals and see if I get signal. I'm assuming it's not oscillating because the lower sideband is working, so this oscillator obviously works, and I need to investigate this switch too and make sure that's making a good contact and the crystal is making good solder contact. So I'll do that next and I'll see what happens and get back. Measuring the collector at Q16. I'm in lower sideband 456, 470. Now I'm going to switch to upper sideband and we lose it. Now I'm going to put the scope, same connection, I got the scope hooked up. Lower sideband signal, upper sideband nothing. Lower, upper. So we got a problem, I think, in the switching in here. Or that crystal might be bad. What if we got a bad crystal? If it's not a switch problem, it's probably that crystal. And that is going to be a major problem because I doubt I have one of those. SX-12 is a 453.5. And there I should have 453.5 and I have nothing. So I think what I'll try, just for desperation, I'm gonna try, well, I'm gonna go back from the base and I'm gonna make sure I have continuity back to this point here, and then I'm gonna resolder the crystal connections and then cross my fingers. Stand by. I have an ohm meter in continuity mode. I have one lead connected to terminal or junction 21 here, and what I'm going to do is probe 19 and 20, and if I get continuity through this switch to both of these, then it looks like I have a bad crystal. Here's Q16. I've got this lead on the base, the red lead. Now I'm going to go, first I'm going to go to, see, I'll go to which is more, where's 19? Okay, here's 19 and 20. They're right at the base of the two crystals here. So I'll go to 19. That's a good sign. I get continuity when it switches on. Okay. Now I'll go to 20. Okay. I'm in lower sideband and 20 is connected. Now I'm going to go to upper sideband and 20 and 19 is connected. So we have continuity all the way down to the crystal. So we may have a bad crystal, or hopefully, and there again, it would be if one of these crystals has a bad solder joint. Otherwise we are not going to have upper sideband, which would not be a good thing. Here's the two crystals, and I do have continuity from the base of Q16 to the non-grounded. You can see the two top ones, they're ground, and the two bottom ones are the hot side or whatever of the crystal here, the side that goes to the base of the oscillator. The solder joints don't look too bad, although, well, tell you, I'm going to remove the solder from those solder joints. I'm going to resolder them, and then I'm going to recross my fingers. I crossed my fingers. We have upper sideband. It was a bad solder joint on that crystal. It was the ground. It looked a little flaky, but I thought, nah, it's not too bad. But I pulled off all the old solder, put some fresh solder on, and it took off. So I guess crossing your fingers sometimes works, I guess.
Hello, BB. Hey, BB, hello to you, Jesse, with the way BB Jesse get down.
I think I'm picking up interplanetary transmissions somewhere around 27 megacycles. Oh, man.
Alright, BB. Okay, BB. Yeah, hey, man. Like I say, man, I suppose Project Preach, which is big brother. Hey, BB, take care, man. Appreciate the time out, BB. I'm pressing on the singer power, read the mail.
I didn't understand a word that guy said. I think it was English, but I'm not sure. Must be Skip. From another planet.
Hey, 22 still, you say lead preacher, tell him lead preacher alone.
Man.
Lead preacher alone, 22 still, that bass.
Talk about distortion. Cyanide. Well, I thought I had it repaired. And now the upper sideband crystal is not oscillating. Lower sideband is. Now when I switch to upper sideband, nothing. So here's what I found. I have a hot soldering iron here, and watch what happens when I touch X12, this crystal. I'm going to touch the top of the crystal with a hot soldering iron and watch what happens as that crystal heats up. And let's take a second here. Watch the scope. It's getting warmer, and there it is. There's upper sideband. Now I took the soldering iron off and watch the scope, and there goes the crystal. No oscillation. Oh, there it's wanting to come back. But it's only for a second here. Now it's making a liar out of me. Yeah, it's starting to decrease slowly. And there it goes. Crystal's dead. So this crystal X12 is bad. I could pull the crystal out of the other unit, but I have since fixed the power supply in that second unit, and that unit is working pretty good, so I don't want to do that. I don't know if I'll be able to find another one of these crystals here. There again, it is X12, 453.5 kilohertz. So I think what I'll do, this radio, I'll put it back together. I can use it on AM. I can use it on lower sideband for 80 and 40 meters, but it's going to be pretty much useless for the ham bands anyway, above 40. If I can get another crystal for this, I'll look around. I may be able to find one, either some of my equipment down in the building, or I'll try to find one on the internet. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the alignment with it working on AM and lower sideband, finish that, and then I'll finish this video. So anyway, no upper sideband, unfortunately.
And I learned a little trick.
40 meters starting to come up here. It's a little before 5 o'clock Central. So I touched up the alignment on this one. It was pretty close. It was off a little bit. So I'm going to put this one back together and put it on the shelf. I might hook it up and tune around tonight later maybe, but I like these old radios. They're so easy to work on. I mean, everything's right there. And if you get one of these, get rid of the incandescent bulbs. Anyway, I think that'll do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to work on the next one, but I won't put that on video unless somebody wants to see it, because this can get boring. But anyway, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye for now.